Next gentleman we have presenting has been with Bearing Point for quite some time, and he's involved in our security business, both in and out of healthcare. But he and I have worked quite closely over the last year to develop our security business that we have going globally and bring that over into the healthcare market, and now be able to introduce it into and use it in conjunction with what we're doing with HIE. Brian Fuller.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Kelly, for having us here. So just quickly, I want to go over Bearing Point security capabilities, specifically how they apply to the healthcare space, and then finish up with some discussion on the integration with privacy and security and what that really means when you get down to it. So quickly on the first slide, this is just an overview of our security practice, but probably most importantly, as you can see by the graphic in the upper right-hand corner, we have a secret security base somewhere in the North Atlantic, which is where we do most of our security work. So we're pretty high tech. That didn't go over very well, did it? Next, we've been doing security work in Bearing Point for about 10 years. I'm the original founder of our practice, starting primarily in the federal government space. We do work in every industry, almost in every country in the world. Well, at least we'll take about the top 200 where we've done security work. This is just kind of the top 10 or 15 list of where we've done work in federal government, commercial, and state and local. And our work spans from the strategy all the way down to the bits and bytes uber geek stuff. So we're a management and technology consulting company, which means we do know how to do the big picture kind of things and help you with the planning. But we also have the propeller heads, the folks who in their spare time like to do war dialing, which if any of you know what that means, it means they get in their car, fire up a couple of laptops, and go try to find unsecured wireless networks. We hire these people. You don't take them to cocktail parties, but you need to have people like that. So the moral of the story is we do soup to nut security. And because we've done this so long, we figured out that it isn't just a technology problem. It's a people, process, and technology problem. And so for all your folks out here who are looking at HIT and deploying HAEs and whatnot, I'll be the probably 5,000th person this month who's told you it's not just the technology that's the problem. We can do the technology part. Someone this morning said, we can build a network. We can do it blindfolded with two arms tied behind our back. That's not the biggest issue. Problem is really the people part, which to me means a lot of the cultural things, maybe training, the process part, which is the business processes, the interactions between organizations that you have to define and regulate and make sure that they work. And then once you've figured out what the problem is, you figure out if there's technology out there that you can deploy to make your life a little bit easier, more cost-effective, and more efficient. So if you guys have had any interaction with consultants, you know that we can't do a presentation without our graphic of the world. This is our security graphic of the world, information security, the three principles of CI&A, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and some of our general solutions that we do across every industry. Again, as you guys are doing the HIE type of work, I'll caution you not to do a point solution approach. And a lot of the providers we work with, we see them buying one technology here, which helps them out with one component of their infrastructure. They'll buy another point solution here. Could be one firewall brand here, one firewall there. Say you've got 50 hospitals in your network. Each one of them will have a different Active Directory structure, which means you have 50 different definitions of what a user is. What I would recommend to you all is to have an enterprise-wide approach. And I gave you a list of reasons if you're developing a business case why you need to have that, what an enterprise approach gives you. So just really quickly, you get a list of what all your assets are by doing an enterprise security approach. You can classify all of your application data, both the clinical and support things, and know what that information is, what's sensitive, what's not, what's PHI under HIPAA, what's not. Identify access requirements, the example I just mentioned. If you have an enterprise approach to defining access requirements to systems, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than doing it 30 different ways. PHI ingress and egress points. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of HIEs here. Knowing where your data is and where it's going and how it's coming back is absolutely critical. And the last one, just data loss notification requirements, is becoming huge, especially with the new legislation. Quickly, can I just get a quick show of hands? Anybody heard of the HITRUST Alliance? One guy. All right, I'll give him a call and tell him that their marketing needs an uplift. HITRUST is a commercial organization that was set up a little over a year ago to develop a common security framework for the commercial healthcare industry. It's a reaction to a couple of things. One, the HIPAA requirements are unclear to most. You can't get certified in it, so while you can claim you're HIPAA compliant, there's no piece of paper that says you are. And if OCR or CMS comes to your organization, you say, hey, I'm HIPAA compliant, it's your interpretation versus theirs. The second reason it was created is because whenever you do a business agreement or a BAA, it usually takes about 6 months of lawyers to go back and forth talking about things. You have to do assessments. It's millions of dollars. For a company like, say, CVS or J&J, it costs them tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year to do security assessments of their trading partners. With HITRUST, it's organizations in healthcare will get certified based on this common security framework. And it's based on several standards. You heard NIST this morning. NIST has an entire security book of requirements. It's based on the British standard called ISO 27001, based on the payment card industry, PCI standard, which is credit card transactions, and a few others. What it does is it takes all these things and then consolidates them down into the parts that make sense for healthcare, particularly payers and providers, but also beyond that. To show you that it's serious, here's what the Executive Council looks like. Some of the biggest companies in the country, including a Pennsylvania company, Highmark. And Highmark is one of the founding members and is on the Executive Council. And they have expressed their interest in becoming certified and then requiring their partners to become certified. Just a slide on some of the different leadership roles that Bearing Point plays in healthcare. Talk about HITRUST. My team wrote a lot of the framework as one of the founding members. Jim had mentioned ONC. We play a major role there. And we've done the biggest financial system implementation in the country at HHS, and we do all kinds of work for CDC with PHRs and a number of other things. Last slide I'm not even going to cover because it's just a lot of the solutions that we have that are specifically focused on healthcare. We spent quite a few years figuring out what your problems are. We go back into our labs and come up with solutions that actually would work in your environment. It's different. You guys say it's unique. It's unique. It's different. You have things like PHI. You have people like doctors who control the information, and their primary focus is on curing people, not on managing all these other things. So we have to have solutions that actually work in that environment. So that's my rapid fire. Sorry if you couldn't understand. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague from Bearing Point, Harvey Levin. He runs our state and local practice that's focused on health and human services. Thank you.